Morning. My name is Joanne O'Brien. I'm the VP of Agile Collaboration within TM Forum, and it's my great pleasure to present to you this morning's Action Week webinar focused on our Zoom project, Zero Orchestration and Operation Management. That will be presented to you today by Ken Dilbeck, who's the VP of R&D within TM Forum. And briefly, before we kick off, we will just walk through the new structure of our Action Week event, just to help people prepare for how the structure of the event will flow. This is the third of our 3 series of webinars. Yesterday we covered Internet of Things, and on Wednesday we covered the Customer Experience Management Program. And the idea of these webinars really is for people who have an interest either in getting involved in the collaboration programs or coming to the Action Week event, that they will get a flavour of the work that is not only already developed collaboratively with our members from across the industry, but also what work will be focused on during our Action Week event, so people can prepare and maybe suggest contributions. The Action Week event is not a conference. For any of you who have attended it before, it's very different to a conference. It is really a series of agile working sessions running in parallel. And in order to get the most out of the event, you do need to come equipped to roll up your sleeves really and get involved with the actual event itself. So just to give you a flavour, you see here on the Monday morning, we have a newcomer session, and that's an opportunity for anyone who is new to Action Week or collaboration in general can come together. We will walk them through any of the preparation activities that they may need to do. We can provide one-to-one support to people so that they can figure out how to get the most out of the week based on their personal needs or their company ambitions for their participation at the event. During the opening session then, which starts at 9 a.m. on Monday morning, we have a strategic presentation which really looks at the shifts and changes within the industry and the impact that has on industry collaboration, in particular focus on Internet of Things, M2M, customer experience, customer centricity, and the whole role of virtualization and how that is impacting all of telecommunications and their supplier parties and the products that they need to offer. Then we jump into these quite strategic and exploration sessions here, the green sessions.
Yeah, Joanne,
Yep.
hate to interrupt, but I don't know that your slides are being shared at this point. You may want to double check.
Okay.
I'm still seeing the introduction slides, or the introduction, the overview, so apologies for interrupting, but sometimes there's just a technical push that needs to occur.
I have pushed them and they are showing as shared. I'm going to continue because I'm not aware of another thing that I can do.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thanks, Ken. So during this green session here on the left, which will be basically multiplied by about 11 working streams, so it's not just one stream, it's 11 doing this set of activities at the same time, and I'll take you through what they are shortly. Now, the teams have done a lot of preparation towards Action Week, but that's when they come to the event, they still basically reevaluate what they're doing against any changes that may have been experienced in the industry, and because they have a whole new set of participants actively involved in the stream. Just check the questions. If people have questions, you might pop them into the question window. That would be great, and we can pick those up as we go and during the end. Then, because the entire session is being run as an Agile workshop, at 11 a.m. on the Tuesday morning, all of the program teams will come back together and present what their intended ambitions are for the week in quite some detail, as well as what additional resources they may need over the course of the week. So while everybody will be participating in a single stream, they get multiple opportunities over the course of the week to actually stay abreast of activities that are going on across the rest of the event. Okay. Jen, as they jump into this kind of wine-colored session, this is where all of the agile development Not seeing slides. Is anything being shared? Okay, I'm going to stop the slide sharing and start it again. If people on the call might let me know if they're seeing it through comments.
Now seeing it, Joanne.
Now seeing it. Okay. Well, I will assure you that that was green all along.
Yeah, no problem. So that's good. That's
okay. My apologies, guys, for those on the line. I hope this is still making sense. I covered the green session here. It's basically it's giving you a view to the structure and flow of the event, and then I'll get into more detail again, okay? And this wine coloured here, this is where all of the teams working in parallel are breaking out into particular working streams and iteratively developing out what they had committed to do in their initial objectives. Now, we understand there is a lot of interrelationships across all those programs, and we have set up a mechanism in order to handle those interrelationships by having nominations of experts from one team go visit and be invited into other teams. We have tried that in the past, and we have a lot of preparatory activities in place to make that go smoothly as possible. The final session here, this wrap-up session on Thursday evening, is very much has been kind of the cornerstone of the event, really, where all the teams get back together. It's quite a bit of a buzz around this because it's where people get to show off what they achieved over the course of the week, and that occurs about 5:30 on the Thursday evening. Because we're adding a little bit of element of competition to the event, all of the attendees at the event will get the opportunity to vote based on vote on the teams that they feel have achieved their objectives the best over the course of the week. And at that point on the Thursday evening, we will be making some prizes and awards. The Friday session is, we have less activities going on Friday. That's a standard structure for this event. Some of the catalysts are choosing to meet on the Friday. Others are actually planning to do some of their activities as part of their development activity over the course of the week. So that's populated throughout Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday and Thursday. The frameworks team are also meeting on the Friday, and there's some other smaller ancillary activities as well. The next slide basically gives you another view of the same thing, just in a different kind of different perspective on the same thing. So taking the primary overarching programs of Agile IT, Open Digital and IT, and customer centricity, the teams use on the Monday structured and predefined user stories or business canvases to frame their discussion. Because all of these topics are so mammoth in nature, they need a framing, really, and it's the user stories which allows us to think about, well, how will this be used and adopted within the industry. Same for the business canvas. That they've selected that as a template for Open Digital and customer centricity, given the nature of potential different business models in the Internet of Things, M2M type ecosystem. These are then rationalized, validated, prioritized, and as a participant you would be participating in this activity. You would have your opportunity to make your suggestions and provide that into the teams. And then once we jump into Tuesday afternoon, it becomes very much an iterative agile development activity with lots of retrospective scrums and stand-ups. Okay? So then giving you a flavour of, well, what exactly will people be working on? Here's another view which I think is proving very useful when talking to people about the event and gives some clarity to, or more in-depth view to the event itself. So from the customer centricity program, there would be 4 streams: CEM, analytics, metrics, and revenue management. There's 2 key things I want to call your attention to. Not only do you need to evaluate really what all these streams are and which of these are of most interest to you. If you choose to attend the event at Action Week or choose to participate in any of these programs in the future, the best first thing you need to do really is join the respective project. And we've populated this column here with the appropriate links to bring you directly to that project that you need to join in order to be able to participate in that. And the reason that's important is we as a TM Forum, a not-for-profit industry association, operate under our IPR agreement, and as member companies all of your companies have signed up to this agreement. It is not I or Ken or other people from staff that approve you onto these projects. It is the IP contact or intellectual property contact within your company that approves you to join a particular project within Team Forum and to collaborate within the IPR mode of that project. So having that preparatory activity taken care of before you come on site does make your participation much easier on site. The other key thing I want to draw your attention to is this set of proposed deliverables. So in looking at these, this is a good way to establish, well, where do I fit in? Where can I add value and where can I gain the most to bring that back to my organization? And they're quite distinct in nature. So just because it's at the top, the customer experience is focusing on omni-channel best practice and 360 view of the customer. They're just examples of what they intend to build out at Action Week. And this provides not only context to help you think about what will happen on site and what people will be working on, it also gives you a flavour of, well, if I want to prepare a contribution and I would like to submit that to the event, then this is the context in which you would evaluate. So, for example, if you felt you or your company has a significant contribution to make in the area of 360 view of the customer, you would prepare that and you would submit it in the CEM project. Now, we do have a 1 week prior to the Action Week event, a 1 week cutoff for these types of significant contributions to come in, and that's really to give everybody at the event a level playing field. We have people coming from all over the globe, quite a few people where English is their second language, and it's important, and they have fed back to us that they really appreciate the opportunity to be able to review and absorb these contributions before they come on site and be able to actively participate as a result of that. So hence that deadline of 1 week prior to the event for any significant contributions that you wish to make in the context of these proposed deliverables shown here. Now, this slide is proving very useful in talking to people about Action Week and how they're planning to spend their time at the event. So just going to very briefly show you where you can find this. In the Team Action Week website and under the agenda at a glance. Up here there's a link, a little button called More Detailed View, and that is continuously being maintained and even on site will be maintained. So do watch that, and just because you may have downloaded one maybe 2 weeks ago, do check it again to see for any changes. There has been some nominal changes in the last few days. And then this just gives you another flavour of how we're operating at the event. It's very important that as you participate in the event that you really commit your energy and time to one particular team so that everybody can gain the value of the vast experience and expertise that we have at the event. We're looking forward to approximately 200 people at the event. Fantastic display of expertise and wonderful diversity of companies, over 50% service providers currently registered for the event. So in order to help people understand where their interest areas are and to demonstrate their commitment into the particular project that they're working on while they're there, we've just created these badges. These will be available in the particular rooms of each of the programs. So say, for example, the API team will have their own room, and the people who choose to actively involve and get in the development of the REST APIs over the course of the week, they will wear these API badges. This makes it very easy for people to network and see where different people's interests are in over the course of the week. So here are the primary preparatory activities and context I wanted to give you before we jump into the Zoom program. And again, Ken is going to take us through this, and this is really a fabulous opportunity to prepare for any contribution you might make and ensure you're up to speed with all of the work, fantastic work that's been going on in the Zoom program over the last year. So Ken, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. You may want to push first, just here we go. We've got the right slide there, so that just wanted to introduce our Zero Touch Orchestration, Operations, and Management program to you. The overall flow of this will be just kind of a brief introduction to what we see the major industry drivers are, what we're doing in the program, what we're trying to achieve, and then dealing very specifically with what we accomplished over the last 6 months, and then the opportunity of what the plans are for the next 6 months and how you might get involved in that, particularly how that might play out at Action Week. One of the main drivers that's going on here, as you can imagine, with Zoom, is a focus on SDN and NFV. If you look out in the industry, and this number actually is from early last year, that almost every service provider that was surveyed in this survey was planning on, at minimum, deploying SDN and looking further at what was going on with NFV. But there was a tremendous concern with what was going on in the back office and how they were going to, what were they going to do with that. That is one of the, the specialties of the TM Forum, is addressing what goes on in those back office systems. How do we automate? How do we manage? And how do we control the network and monetize it? Those are the fortes of the forum. And our service providers are looking to us to help them through this, and almost every service provider in the globe is looking at this as a major concern over the next few years. Joanna, if you'll go to the next slide.
Sure.
So why are they doing that? What are their major drivers in there? One of the first things they're looking at is the ability to have service agility. It's not about the technology that's going in. Is it just, oh yeah, we've got NFV, we can virtualize the network equipment? It's much more than that. They're looking at this as the ability to assemble a new ecosystem where they can do service composition, but not just service composition in the sense of, okay, I've got a library of apps and I can mash them up. It is the ability to assemble complex services across multiple administrations, and then also to be able to serve multiple tenants in that type of environment and optimize their IT infrastructure to deliver those complex service, and to be able to do it in a very automated way, so that they're delivering services and being able to compose those services in a very short time frame. Hence the the name Zero Touch. They want to be able to do this in a fully automated way, as automated as much as possible. And what they expect to get out of achieving that is a very radical reduction in OpEx, both from the cost of the equipment that they're putting in, or the cost of running the types of equipment, but to the reduction of the staffs that are doing procurement, the reductions of staff that are actually doing the operations. And we see a major trend moving from NetOps to a DevOps environment as far as the operations control that's there. And then, again, the reduction in CapEx, which was kind of the initial motivator that captivated people's imagination, was the ability to move from very complex software, hardware compositions that are in our current infrastructure to a more off-the-shelf hardware assembly, and have the differentiation be in the software, hence driving out a lot of the cost in procuring that hardware, as well as a lot of the cost in continuing to upgrade it. Could you push the next slide, Joanne? But one of the very interesting factors, that we've seen when we're talking to the service providers, is that there is a very large concern about their ability to be able to address new business models and to be able to adapt rapidly to market conditions. It's not a concern about their ability to introduce new technologies. They're very much more inclined to be, to focus their attention on their ability to adapt to do business models. And they've recognized, and at least what we've been seeing as far as the feedback to the forum, is the ability to have agile back office systems that handle things like order, that handle things like billing, SLA, service assurance. That is the key enabler that they see that's going to allow them to move forward. If you'll push to the next slide. So one of the, this is the result of a survey that we did in late 2014, just a couple months ago. We completed this, surveying a number of our service providers in preparation for some of the e-books and some of the research that our pubs department is doing. And one of the interesting factors here, if you look at the top 3 concerns that people have as they look to how are we going to deploy NFV, they're all around organizational issues, cultural issues, and people issues. It isn't the technology that they're concerned with, and even the people issues, cultural issues, actually are even a little bit higher than the new business models, and some of their concerns that they're looking at that are that you might expect to be very high in their concern rate. So this concern on the cultural issues has shaped some of the way TM Forum is looking at our deliverables and the type of deliverables that our teams are focused on. Wanted to bring these couple of aspects out because you'll see how our awareness of these concerns has shaped both our past deliverables as well as our future work. Joanna, if you can push to the next slide. So if we look at the overall goals of the Zoom project, you'll see that one of the key drivers is this end-to-end service management, end-to-end service enablement capability, the ability to handle service composition in this very complex ecosystem that we see emerging, the ability to fully leverage a virtualized network and services environment is one of the key goals there, trying to push the virtualization and integration of the IT infrastructure and the network infrastructure as far as we is physically feasible, so that we essentially create one infrastructure that the service provider utilizes, where all of the compute and storage and switching capabilities are utilized, location independent, and are essentially a vast pool of compute resource, a vast pool of storage resource, going all the way from their edge at their point of presence there, all the way into the more centralized data center environment, all of those being treated equally as usable resources for any load, and it gives them a tremendous advantage in being able to put compute resource close to where it needs to be and move storage around as required, being able to optimize the use of that resource. We also are building multi-tenancy into the systems from the onset, and multi-tenancy and some of the assumptions that you have made about that really do challenge some of the fundamental design principles around the way our systems are put together. It puts a requirement into them from the very beginning that you need to understand, both from a security, from a configuration capability. You're not putting up specialized pieces of hardware that are dedicated to certain tenants. You need to be able to differentiate on that, what billing aspects that came out of that were tied to what specific users, and be able to differentiate at that level. We see that security, policy, and SLA are going to be major components going forward, and you'll see that how that's emerged. We believe that that policy is going to provide the flexibility to enable this dynamic environment, and that the ability to create end-to-end SLAs in this environment is going to be one of the fundamental enablers and one of the early enablers that needs to be there in order for these first systems to be able to stack up. We also have a real strong belief that no one SDO or fora such as the forum will have enough knowledge to be able to address this entire domain by themselves. We believe that cooperation between the SDOs is going to be a #1 objective. We are proactively reaching out to groups such as ETSI NFV, 3GPP, MEF, ONF, Open Daylight, OPNFV to assure that they're, as much as possible, we're sharing information with them, they're sharing requirements with us. We say that we have a key role to play in that, producing these types of solutions for the industry, but we firmly believe we have to do that in cooperation with these other groups. Can you push to the next slide, Joanne?
Sure.
So if you look at what we, the Zoom project delivered in December of this year as part of what the Frameworks 14.5 work, this is kind of we organized ourselves around some core themes. We organized our work around the blueprint for end-to-end management, so there were several deliverables that were focused on that area. We focused on DevOps and the transformation for the digital economy. Then we also focused our work on the NFV readiness, the operations and procurement impact. You see specifically in this area that was trying to address those drivers of what do we need to do from a cultural perspective, what do we need to do from an organizational perspective in order to be ready to function in this new world. And then we also published some information about what was going on in the open source area. And I want to underlie this with the fact that all of this work, we tried to utilize our Catalyst program to validate anything that any ideas that we created and to explore new approaches. And I really do want to emphasize that what the forum is trying to concentrate on is not just developing a paper spec or developing the high-level requirements. We're trying to explore this all the way down to implementation detail and provide very practical guidance on that so that we can validate and push that forward. If you look at the actual deliverables that came out of that, you'll see that from the this kind of breaks it out for you. We delivered 3 ebooks, which are high-level, more executive-oriented overview documents. We put out 9 exploratory reports. These are documents that tend to say, we have some of these ideas we're exploring in this area. We believe and would like your feedback on these types of issues. Here's our initial thoughts, where we may not be asked to the point of saying, we believe this is the answer. And then we had 8 technical reports, which are a much stronger statement of, we believe this is the direction that where the industry should be taking this. And you'll notice that a number of the TRs were actually documents that we shared with ETSI NFV 3 specifically, where we had a gap analysis and also some very specific recommendations where we felt TM Forum would be relevant in realizing the Mano architecture, and then a set of user stories that are actually driving all of our work going forward. We shared that with a number of standards, other groups, that so they could see what we thought were key ideas, and also where they could provide feedback if they saw additional use cases or user stories. The user stories, by the way, were composed with some strong input from both ADIS, which is a group here in the United States, as well as ETSI. So it's not just a representation of TM Forum work, but it's a representation of what we think the industry requirements are, and proactively reaching across that. So I encourage you to take a look at this. Also, just there will be some backup material slides at the end of this, which will give you a bit more detail about what each of these documents content is, and it'll provide an active link onto the website that'll get you there. So I encourage you to take a look at the documents, download them, and be good input into next week. Now, talk to me a little bit about the proof of concepts. In June, we had 5 catalysts that were part of the initial exploring of some of the ideas around our approach from Zoom, and we looked at at the orchestration of SDN and NFV enforcing SLA over a WAN. We looked at the dynamic data-driven capabilities there. We looked at NFV management in a complex ecosystem. You'll notice that these are just the titles, but all of these are exploring that more complex ecosystem relationship, not just NFV in a silo. Can we manage, can we create an a virtualized environment here, but it's how do we create that virtualized environment in a more complex ecosystem? How does it work in a hybrid environment? And you'll see hybrid being discussed in a couple of these areas. This gives you an indication of what parts of the TM Forum frameworks were being exploited, whether it be the information framework, the REST, and then it also gives you an idea of how it related to some of the ETSI architecture and some of the other areas that were explored, whether it was DevOps or the end-to-end SLA. I would like to also point out that Catalyst 1, 2, and 3 were submitted to ETSI NFV as POCs. The other two were considering it. I don't believe that they continued to go through that process, but two of them definitely, or three of them definitely were submitted. One of them, the Cloud NFV, was actually the first POC that was submitted to ETSI. So if you'll push to the next slide. We also had 5 catalysts that were part of digital disruption. They were representing, looking again, exploring some of these ideas and representing a little bit more mature work, because the very early work was done off just some, the Zoom project had been in existence for 2 months when they launched. These projects actually delivered after the Zoom project had been in existence for about 6 to 8 months. So they have a much more mature exploration of Zoom-specific ideas. They're preparing for NFV for prime time, was looking at this data-driven management operations platform using the network state to drive the operations. So once again, looking at how do we get this dynamic environment in place, how do we do this in a very flexible manner, how do we start putting this across multiple networks. The closed loop scaling, healing, and optimization was the second iteration of looking at how do we do this in a hybrid environment, and also how do we coordinate across various different types of network technology, looking at performance management and fault. We had the maximizing profitability for NFV orchestration. They look at the ability to take analytics and apply it in this environment, and again, exploiting policy and what kinds of policy engines do we need to have in place, how flexible do they need to be, how do they work across multiple technologies, and the life cycle for a multi-cloud environment. So they were taking a look at how do we virtualize and interact with the cloud environment, how do we take public and private cloud and successfully deliver an end-to-end solution. So once again, using the Catalyst program to both explore and to validate some of the ideas and concepts that were coming out of our 14.5 work. So where does that leave us? There's a tremendous amount of work that still remains to be done, and what we have done for our next phase of deliverables, which is basically the next 6 months window, we're concentrating again on the end-to-end virtualization management as one of the major focus. If you think of this as, that's one of the epics that are going to be driving our work. Below that, there will be a set of user stories and specific deliverables. We have the operations and transformation for a digital ecosystem. And then we have the virtualization, operation readiness, and procurement, very specialized, again, looking more at the cultural and organizational issues and how does one actually buy things like a VNF package and what does that mean, what are those pieces. And then we have a theme around the foundational work that is going to be necessary to realize this. Each one of the above requires things like a flexible security environment, policy-driven capabilities, policy engines, orchestration, and then the fundamentals around some of the information model need to underlie all of this, as well as a set of catalysts to validate and explore these approaches. Would emphasize that we have a number of catalysts that are emerging for 15. I believe our number right now is somewhere in the range of about 15 submissions in that area. We'll see where those all settle out. We're looking to combine some of those, but there will be a number of catalysts that are working in that. And I'd encourage you, if you're interested in being involved in a catalyst, be it action week, talk to the people that are going to be working on those. This is where some of those ideas will mature and actually turn into what's displayed on the floor in Nice. So these are the key work streams, and if you remember Joanne's early slide showing day 1, day 2, day 3, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there will be active work streams on all of those days addressing these 4 areas. We'll have a work stream and basically a room dedicated to looking at the end-to-end virtualization and management, kind of the sub-themes and potential deliverables that the team will be addressing as this end-to-end service assurance for multi-administration and hybrid network operations, the end-to-end business-driven optimization, architecture, and looking at the dynamic control aspects, and the end-to-end security fabric will all be sub-themes, work items under that theme 1, and will be organized in one of the rooms there. Another of the rooms will be looking at the operations transformation, things like product lifecycle management. This future mode of operations is the architecture work and the component architecture that's going to be necessary to support that, what's going on there, and then the overall transformation from NetOps to DevOps are all potential work items that will be addressed by that group. If you've got interest in submitting contributions or working on those topics, I suggest you look for that theme. And then theme 3 will be around the virtualization of operations, readiness, and procurement. There's a lot of interest in exactly what virtualization is packaging. What does a VNF look like? How do I define a procurable unit? How do I put requirements on it? And then how do I deploy that? There's a very, the current procurement and operational procedures are very much oriented towards you buy a hardware-software combination, and our procurement offices know how to do that fairly well. From a network perspective, they start to procure software only and hardware only. It's a very different model, and there's a lot of work that has been submitted to help work through that. There's also the work around a federated service catalog so that they can begin to enable this service composition, particularly across administrative boundaries. And then some very interesting work being proposed by JDSU around a virtualization maturity model that will be addressed in that 3rd stream. And then at the same time, there will be some very detailed technical work down at the foundation layer, looking at what changes need to be put forth in the information model to enable this environment. What are there new requirements for the vocabulary to make it easy to assemble these services, to allow the interaction to occur? We believe there's a lot we can leverage from the existing information framework, the SID, into this environment, but we also believe there's some fundamental changes that need to take place. Similarly, around policy management, we see this as one of the areas of high importance that's going to be a focus area across the industry for the next foreseeable future. But we think that this is a very key area where it's going to be very important to have an overall structure to the policy, approach to policy that will be consistently applied across this ecosystem. If it's policies allowed to be implemented in multiple silos, the ability to do the overall integration and manage this in an end-to-end way will be severely limited. So we feel like that's one of the very key area and we're going to be doing some pretty high priority work in that area. Similarly with security, security needs to be baked into this environment. And one other thing I would like to emphasize on that is frameworks is showing up across the bottom. We feel that frameworks is the fundamental thing that we're going to be leveraging across all of these areas. It's where it's still our basis, and we're not creating another separate infrastructure for NFV and SDN. What we're doing is leveraging our experience from the existing frameworks and applying it to this new problem domain and feeding it back to them. While we won't have a dedicated work stream necessarily tied directly into frameworks, we will be interacting with the frameworks team, bringing in process experts, bringing in information experts all through the week at different points and providing feedback to them about what changes may be required or adaptations that need to take place. Okay, now if you'll go to the next slide. So how do you get involved? And one of the things I'd like to just walk through here is, in order to participate in the Zoom process, I would suggest you go to Zoom. You can press on the button that says how to be part of Zoom. It can get you give you a chance to let us know that you are interested, and we'll get back to you on some specific about how to engage. I'd encourage you to look at the documents that came out of 14.5. There's the full link is there, or you can go to the Download Center on the TM Forum website and you can click Zoom. The Download Center is one of the options. If you go into Standards, it's off to the right-hand side of the screen. In the projects area, there is the Zoom project. You do need to join that if you're going to attend Action Week and participate in the work. As Joanne had alluded to earlier, this is part of the IPR process and allows us to make sure that we have clean IPR and the deliverables there. You can participate in the community. Again, encourage you to be in Action Week, very specifically the one that's upcoming here, February 9th through the 13th in Lisbon. We've provided you some detail there. There's the link on how to get registered, and then you can attend a training, or you can look at our research again on the Inform area of the website. So those are the key things I wanted to communicate to you. I'm hoping that that may have whetted your appetite a bit to get involved in the technical teams of what we're doing. You can send questions or specific things to Joanne, myself, Carl. We'll provide detailed responses. If whatever question you would have, feel free to reach out to us. We are really looking forward to it. We believe it's going to be the foundation that allows us to move the work like we did in 14.5. We did a tremendous amount of work in a 6-month period. We believe this next 6 months is going to be just as important, and we are focused on trying to deliver some very pragmatic, consumable deliverables in the June timeframe for the industry on how do you actually do and how do you begin this transformation into a virtualized service provider. So at this point, if there's any questions that have popped up in the question booth, we're happy to answer those.
Excellent, Ken. Thank you very much. I just included a link to the registration for Action Week, and just one final reminder to join the specific projects that you may wish to participate in, either at Action Week or at some point in the future. So jumping to questions, yes, we do have a question. So one question here, Ken, are you ensuring that the need for hybrid management, both physical and virtual, is also being addressed so as to allow seamless evolution of networks?
Absolutely. That is one of the fundamental requirements. We're looking at providing both guidance on how does one, what are the natural evolution steps. We're doing that both in the end-to-end SLA management thread, as well as we've got several of the catalysts are looking at hybrid environments. The closed loop catalyst specifically, that's one that I can just readily recollect. That was one of the major aspects of their catalyst, was they had both a non-virtualized element to their network, I believe with their RAN environment, and then they had a virtualized section of their network, and they were collecting performance measures across that and being able to provide an end-to-end SLA across that. And so that is definitely one of the hot buttons. We know that we're getting specific feedback from that catalyst effort will be coming in as contributions to Lisbon as far as recommendations on improvements around the APIs, as well as some improvements to the information model. So we're getting good feedback from the catalyst teams addressing that specific issue.
Excellent, thanks Ken. Somebody commented that they are currently reading the MNC and T-Nova paper, and that seems very good. There's a question here about the US organization that you referred to with regards to working with TM Forum and Etsy. They just want you to re-spell out that organization.
It's ATIS, A-T-I-S. It's a organization that has its roots in the U.S. around interconnect, and they set up a lot of the interchange, order interchange between service providers and historically. So they've been, that's kind of where they have evolved from. It was, how all of the baby, the bells after they were broken up got together and allowed them to exchange order records across their boundaries is one of the big things that they've done. And since then, they've kind of grown up and moved into other areas.
Excellent content. And what about kind of expertise? And is there specific roles that you feel are most appropriate to participation in the collaborative activities, or is there any prerequisites regarding expertise?
That's what's one of the really interesting thing with the way this is set up. Some of the foundation work does require that you have a pretty good, if you're going to be in the information modeling group, you better be a pretty good information modeler. You need to understand those core concepts of how does one manipulate an information model, what are ABEs, and so those areas would have some pretty strong requirements for you to be an architect or have a deep technical understanding of issues around policy and or security. Around the themes, I would think that you need more of an understanding of some of the business drivers around, if you're looking at the readiness and DNF packaging, more the business issues and the cultural and organizational issues within a service provider. The end-to-end SLA is more about your understanding of what performance measures need to be pulled together, what are KPIs. So I think there's an opportunity, no matter what your particular expertise or level of familiarity is, to get in and participate and actively contribute to these. But you'll need to look at the level that each specific thread is contributing to, and look for a little bit of alignment. I encourage you to spend a little bit of time with the existing output from 14.5 should give you a little better feel for where you might be best suited to contribute. And as per the schedule, the Monday, Tuesday morning is intended to give you a chance, if you get into a session and you realize, oh, not such a good fit, you could move across to another place. So I'd encourage you to find your top one or two candidates and spend some time in those sessions on Monday and Tuesday to find out where you really want to spend the rest of your week in trying to drive to the deliverables of that group.
Excellent, Ken. Thank you very much. Thanks to everybody for joining us all today. I hope you enjoyed this webinar and found it very useful. These slides will be made available, as will a recording of the webinar will be posted out to all of those who registered. Ken also mentioned that there was backup material. We're including those in the slide deck that will be sent out to you in the next 24 hours. Thank you all. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.